Hey everyone, and welcome to your Monday Motivation. I've focused a lot of the Instagram content that I've been putting out lately on pointing out very specific and very nuanced mistakes. And that got me thinking because a lot of my content before was about celebrating and looking at where referees were doing well. And I still have some of that queued up and ready to go in the coming days, but it started to get me to think like, what are we actually learning by looking at these mistakes? And for me, it becomes a mindset, right? Because there's this myth out there that you have to be a perfect referee, that you have to get every call right, that you have to be in position every time, and that you have to be able to be that robot. Elliot Katz of Whistle Stop Footy had a recent he had a recent quip, if you will, about justice, right? Where players expect, and fans and supporters and coaches, they want universal justice, like a video game where the pixels, the computer or the video game knows what pixel touches what pixel, and it's got the algorithm to decide if that's a foul or not, right? And we don't have that ability. We're human. We don't have this all-seeing, omniscient kind of perspective where we're able to see every little permutation of contact and to be able to determine, especially live, if that contact then rises to a foul or if that sequence is an infringement. We simply don't have that. But the best referees that are out there are coming back through and they are looking at everything that they've done and they're finding those little mistakes so that, just like I talked about last week, the next game can be 1% better. That they can be performing at a higher level each time. They don't build up, they don't do that overnight. They don't just become amazing, regional or national or international referees like that. It takes time, it takes work. And it's because they focus on growth over perfection. And that's what I think that a lot of these clips that I'm sharing really start to communicate. So when we start thinking about mistakes, we have to reframe them. We have to reframe our thought process around them, right? I'll share two examples. One from my early career. I was 15 or 16. I was at my first tournament. I am coming fresh off. I've done a couple local games and they went well enough. And I was at a tournament and I was doing, really well. I had a couple AR assignments, did perfectly fine, and I had my first whistle. Now, I made decisions before this game that were wrong. And it had more to do with my setup and my equipment and my preparedness, more so than anything. Um, I used a stopwatch that I wore around my neck, and it was bouncing up and down every time I was running. Every time I was running, just annoying. Now that I think about it, and I realized about 15 minutes into the half that the watch was starting and stopping because it was hitting my chest, and the button would click on and click off each time it hit. So I didn't have any concept of time. And now, of course, because I'm this young hotshot referee, at this point, I think I was out of the certification class and I did really, really well on the in-person, the old school Scantron certifications. I did really well, and I just was so full of myself, right? I thought I was good. I thought I was perfect because on paper, I was. But when it came time to actually putting that knowledge into action, I made a number of mistakes. The stopwatch was just one of them. I didn't utilize my ARs for much of anything. I wasn't in position majority of the time. I also didn't have those nice P-less whistles. I had a P'd whistle that I didn't know how to blow for the life of me. It was all the basic stuff, right? That's what I started with. And you can go somewhere with it, but you got to move on from it pretty quick too, right? And so I ended up shorting the first half by about 5 minutes, and I got lucky that I was actually that close. Um, then I also had at the end of the game, I had a very controversial penalty call that I made from midfield. It was a quick break. I was so far behind play, and there was a just this subtle little push. I think it was a 13 or a 14-year-old game. It was not. It was not a very old game, but they were moving much faster than I was. I wasn't anticipating play or anything, and at the end of the game, it was just horrible. Fans were up and screaming, hurling abuse at me. I had one father coming across trying to take the whistle from me and teach me how to blow it because I couldn't blow it loud enough. It was horrible. It's amazing that I had the fortitude at that age to make it this far. And that, I think, is a testament to my ability to be able to take what was a series of, I think these days I would look at that as sort of unforgivable mistakes and turn them around, reframe them, and figure out something positive. Now I had help. I had a mentor. His name was Bill, and he was 6.5 feet tall, probably 300 pounds, solid ex-Marine kind of guy, and he got right between me. Now I'm 5'7". I probably wasn't much taller. I'm not much taller now than I was then, and he got between me and this father, and he lit him up. Said, "Get back on the sideline right now," and completely and totally defended me. And then we sat and we had an honest conversation about what happened, what went wrong. And there are lessons that I cannot even begin to teach that were in that moment, right? His level of compassion, his level of empathy, his level of let's find something in there that you did well, and then let's address all these little things, because they were little. Once I got the right watch, once I got the right whistle, and once I had the advice and the mentorship and the guidance to be able to run my angle in a more consistent fashion, I was 70% of the way there. Everything else was more fine tuning, mechanics, and consistency, right? And very early on, I had this fixed mindset that these were how games went. I was only doing youth games, right? And over time, I've learned that we have to do things differently. You have to be not just so fixed, but also you have to be, sort of growth minded, right? Because if we look at the next level, we have to be able to grow ourselves and grow our skills up to that level. And how we do that is by simply finding mentorship. It is reflecting on our skills and what goes well and what doesn't. I often recommend that you do that, whether it's guided or with a peer or with a mentor or something. Do it at least once a week, right? If you have a notebook, write down what went well, write down what didn't. It helps. It really does. If you're not a writer, every single phone these days has a recording app. You can voice record. Do a voice journal in the car on the way home. Throw that on and just ramble, just rant. Get it out of your head, because the more you obsess on any mistakes, any time that you're kind of living in that moment, you're staying fixed. And that's that fixed mindset that I think we need to acknowledge is there. It's okay to fixate on some things, but then we need to be able to be dynamic and move beyond it at the same time, right? And that's where the mentorship, the reflection, and then you want to be able to analyze but not obsess, right? It's a fine line between those two, because if you analyze what went well, what would you do different, that kind of thing, and you go through that reflective process, you're going to have a much better chance of understanding how to move past it and apply the lessons of the analysis to be able to improve just that little bit, remember, just 1%, that's all we need, you're going to be able to improve and move forward that much better. So for us, it all comes down to when you have the ability to reflect, when you can get that live feedback from a peer or from a mentor, especially if they're on the game with you, or if they've watched the game with you, or if you can get footage of the game and provide it, remotely. That's a fantastic option as well. So my challenge for you, though, is to break out of this fixed mindset, break out of the things that you've always done, and think about ways that could have been maybe done a little differently, right? Challenge yourself to reflect on a recent mistake and flip it around in your head and say, how can we do this differently? How can we do it better? And I think you'll find that even though no referee is going to be perfect, you're never going to stop learning if you adapt and adopt this habit of this ongoing reflection and this flexible growth mindset. I would love to know, not necessarily an embarrassing moment, but reflect on a mistake. Share with the group your mistake, and let's talk about how we applied, that reflection to it, and how we've grown from it, and how we've gotten better. Let's share that here, or we can talk about it on our next community call, and we can really start to kind of bring this holistically together so that we can avoid that fixed mindset and move on to the growth mindset. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll talk about it on the call. And from there, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing you guys on What's Your Call Wednesday. Have a great day.